session to go into, so we're going to open up the regular session meeting and then adjourn into recess the regular session, go into executive session, and then come back out. So we'll call the order. DCTV recording?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'm going to call to order the January 10th meeting of the Select Board. Roll call, Mr. Mickelson?
Yes.
Mr. Gracie?
Yes.
Mr. Tattlebaum?
Yes.
Mr. Herron?
Yes.
And the chair is here. All right, gentlemen, we have executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21. I need a motion to go into executive session, followed by a second.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Mickelson, seconded by Mr. Gracie to go into executive session. Roll call vote. Mr. Mickelson?
Yes.
Mr. Gracie?
Yes.
Mr. Tattlebaum?
Yes.
Mr. Herron?
Yes.
And the chair votes in favor. Okay, we will recess executive session and recess regular session and go into executive session. So we can leave the meeting. I get the right mouse.
Check.
Check 1, 2.
order of the meeting, reconvene the meeting of the Select Board of January 10th, 2022. We did a prior roll call vote, but we'll do a roll call again. Mr. Tattlebaum,
Yes.
Mr. Harron,
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson,
Yes.
Mr. Gracie,
Yes.
and the chair is here. Please rise as we offer the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing as we offer a moment of silence for our men and women in uniform, both past and present, and both here and abroad, and also for our healthcare workers during this pandemic year 2, year 3. All right, please be seated. Thank you. Okay, we had an appointment at 6:30 for transfer of an aquaculture license that is being it's not going to be held tonight. It'll be held on the 24th at that time. So under new business.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if you don't mind, if you could take the health department COVID update out of order. I know they have a 7 o'clock time that they need to leave.
Okay, we will do that. Let's take under new business. We'll take item E under now. We'll take it over. So, Mr. McGinnis and Board of Health, Mr. Michaud.
Yes, our health director, Chris Michaud, is here. At the last meeting, the board had asked if he could come into this meeting to give an update on COVID with the surge of Omicron, and just to give an update of where the community is at and what the town is doing to support the COVID effort.
Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Mr. McGinnis, members of the board, Christopher Michaud. Apologies. And please, if my connection is bad, let me know. I do have the camera off because I don't have a great internet connection here.
That's okay.
Okay. So I'm sure many on the board, perhaps all on the board, at this point in time, know people that are being affected almost on a daily basis by infection, or having a close call with finding out that someone I was with or a friend is concerned now because they were with someone that was positive. This is happening all around us, and unlike what we saw in the past, we knew what was going on in Dartmouth. We knew what was going on in Bristol County. We knew what was going on in Massachusetts last year at this time to a degree, because we had all of this clinical testing going on. Well, we now have home testing that hit the market in 2021. And with the surge that cropped up right after Thanksgiving, people started relying on those more and more and more. And we now see on social media, people will post that, such and such has test kits, and they sell out in a short amount of time. The results of those test kits are completely unknown. There is a lot of at-home diagnosis that's going on. So, as many may be aware, we saw a number posted in the Standard Times about the last reporting period of over 600 cases in Dartmouth. We didn't even, I think that's twice what we saw last year with the Christmas surge, plus or minus a few percent. That's double. Plus, we don't know what we're getting at home. We know that there is an extraordinary bottleneck going on within our test sites because so many people are looking for testing, and that, everyone would love to see more testing ability, but the bottleneck is occurring, and it doesn't matter how many noses that we can swab and send off to labs. If those labs aren't returning results for 4, 5, 6, 7 days, those results, I hate to say they're really becoming somewhat useless. They're stale. The best thing that I can say is, if you goes back to, I was doing a little bit of reflection as I was looking at a lot of data this morning, goes back to something that, we were saying in the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic in 2019, in March of 2020. If you feel sick, stay home. That has always existed in years prior to 2020. You don't want to get your coworkers, you don't want to get your friends sick. I don't want to get anyone sick. I don't want anyone getting me sick. So, with this bottleneck that's occurring right now with so many people seeking reactive testing from occurrences that happened over the gatherings of the holidays, if you're feeling any symptoms, you feel anything is a little outside of your baseline, and you can stay home. There are so many people having slight symptoms, and by the time they're able to get tests, it's positive. And some of these people are vaccinated as well. We know that the vaccine is working very well, and that, there's a lot of reports about, what the Omicron meant overseas. We do watch what goes on overseas as a barometer of what we can expect here, down here in Dartmouth, as we see, with the Omicron popping up in South Africa. We were watching that to see what to expect. So, right now, it's bad. And the only thing that I can say is, we don't have proactive testing going on anywhere. Proactive testing, with the exception being our public schools and our clinical facilities. They conduct proactive testing. They conduct testing as a measure to keep people safe. When we hear about people going to the airport and stuff like that, those are largely people seeking tests to find out, I'm a close contact, and did I get it? I've got sniffles and it's not usual. What's going on? So we know that the testing that's going on throughout public schools in Massachusetts is doing an extraordinary job keeping kids in school and keeping kids safe. And that is one of the bright spots that we can see in all of the 21-22 storage. Our schools have stayed in session. And what, is being talked about, and I hope to see, and I won't talk about it because I think it's speculation, but they're talking about the surge having a peak and coming down quickly. We shall see. It seems like there's always some turning point with COVID. And, as far as vaccination data is concerned, I was looking at those numbers. I do have some questions that I've shipped off to the state. Out of fairness to the state, I don't want to talk about that. I want to see some information coming from them. I certainly can report back to this board at another time as to what the findings may be. But the good news on the vaccination data is that we still have a lot of people that, can get vaccinated in many communities, and the vaccine is available at many pharmacy locations within a few days at most. So if you haven't been vaccinated, please talk to your general practitioner. I know that, these are extraordinary times, and there's a lot of people that have a lot of pent up frustration and anger. So, you may not believe government, you may not believe this person, you may not believe that person, but you trust the general practitioner that you select. So please take the time to have the conversation and let doctors be doctors and let us be professionals at the professions that we're good at. So whether we are, whatever we are, but if we're not a doctor, we really don't belong talking about what we think the vaccine may do, because that's for academia and doctors to talk about. And please talk to your doctor. That's about all I can say at this point in time. If anyone has any questions, happy to answer. Thank you.
Mr. Mickelson.
So, thank you, Chris. So Chris and I are working on something to move this forward, this awareness toward the latter part of the month, and I'll bring the board up to speed when we get a definite date and reactions after the whatever we're going to do.
Okay. Mr. Talbot.
Thank you, Chris. Great presentation as usual, and thank goodness you're here in town with us. This is an utterly stupid question. It's impossible to answer, but are there other issues, other things that we could do that you've heard of or have any possibility to promote the use and the ease of getting vaccinations that could make a difference? Because it is striking still in our town how low the vaccination rate is compared to even some of the surrounding towns.
Yeah, that's something that I ask myself often, because, I think we all may know someone, or many of us may know someone who didn't get it. And maybe we've tried to have conversations with that person that we know individually. And, in my experience, it hasn't been swaying on those people. And I say, well, if I've known these people for decades and my personal relationship can't sway it, then I think I'd be acting or believing naively that somehow or another that we could have a different outcome with those that we don't know on a personal level. And that's where I really believe that, the general practitioner, your healthcare provider, is the one who you trust your life with. You select that person to go to. You can hire him and fire him at will. You can say, I don't like you anymore, and I can go on to a new practitioner. And those are the people that we should be having the conversations with. I know largely most of us, the younger ones, especially those that we see in the age brackets within the municipal vaccination data, being the most under-vaccinated, we probably only visit once a year. But we now know that the vaccine come April will have been largely available by the end of April to almost the entire population. So, we're quickly moving, to that point now. And I know that in my conversations with a large healthcare provider in the area, that, that's the strategy that they have mentioned, that they're trying to have those conversations in the office with their patients. And that's where they believe that, they can move the needle, no pun intended, in getting more people vaccinated. But it's going to be slow.
Thank you.
Chris, what is your opinion on holding in-person meetings at this time?
At this time, strongly discouraged for the month of January, and I would say through the middle of February. We could probably revisit it after the holiday in February.
Okay. Do we as a board need to direct other boards not to meet in public until we review it after February 21st?
If you're looking for a recommendation from me, I would appreciate that. I think that staff may appreciate that as well, because, as we know, an in-person meeting may require staff to attend, which could be disruptive to staff ability to, be in the office if they're exposed to a large public venue.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Board members, anybody else? Anybody want to do any action on the meetings? Mr. Tattelbaum.
I would have to say that I was very much in favor of meeting early on. However, I think that with the Omicron and it's a shooting gallery as to when and if someone's going to get COVID. I would recommend that we do not meet. And if Chris recommends the middle, we've listened to him up till now, and I think that I think we should continue, and we should probably recommend, or even more than recommend, that any meetings going on in town hall stop until a given date that Chris wants to pick out.
I would say this to the members of the board. I would make the date February 28th, because that way we're meeting on the 14th, I believe, and the 28th. So we should be able to we should be able to have more information on the 28th, moving forward. So if you don't mind, Mr. Tattlebaum, my suggestion would be to revise your motion to not hold any in-person meetings of all boards in town until the board makes a decision on February 28th.
I'd like to get an opinion from Mr. McGinnis on that before I continue.
Let me make a comment if I don't mind. You
Hold
don't
on a
mind?
minute. Hold on a minute, Stan.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you want me to give an opinion on the date?
Yeah, I'm assuming that's what Mr. Tattlebaum is asking.
Yes, we are meeting.
No, I'm opinion of not having open meetings at all and resume it at a particular date.
No, and that's not having in-person meetings.
What did I say?
Open.
Excuse me.
Meetings, generally meetings, yeah.
Excuse me,
In-person meetings.
in person.
Right.
Yes, I mean, I would defer to the health director and his recommendation. And I think I can certainly, if the board votes, let the boards and committees that have been meeting in person know that that's the select board's desire.
Right. Mr. Mickelson.
Especially the boards that we appoint. So then I think they would need to listen to our comments, and basically it's for everyone's health. It's not a healthy, I'm one of the first that wanted to have in-house meetings. And I got to tell you now, with what's going on, I go in my office 6 days a week. No one comes in my office. I don't wear a mask in my office. I wear when I come in the building, when I get in the office, I close my door and shut the door. It's cleaned all the time. As soon as I go out of that office, I put a mask on, and I have signs over all of 7 of our buildings that any of our customers that come in with it, they need to wear a mask, period. Otherwise, we will not let them in the building. And we've had 100%, we've not had anyone argue with us in any of the buildings. They're all wearing it, fortunately. And that's public also. In some of them, it's the public's welcomed into our buildings, and they're more than happy to wear a mask.
I mean, I'd be honest with you. I'm concerned about my health. Let's square the way. I'm more concerned about my wife, my mother-in-law, and I would be absolutely devastated if something would happen in the meeting and people. One of our meetings was a focal point of the virus spreading. So,
Without a doubt. Agree.
so Mr. Tattlebaum's motion, yes, Mr. Tattlebaum.
I don't know did I make a motion, but I also would like to couple this with something else. We have listened to Mr. Michaud from day one. He's telling us not to have in-person meetings.
Thank you.
He's also telling us that getting a vaccine is critically important. And I think this board ought to, in our announcement to the town and to our townspeople, get the vaccine. We recommend it highly because it's available. I think that should be part of our mantra, and maybe we'll get a handful of people to listen to us. We need to make that announcement consistent. Get the vaccine.
It's too bad we don't have that new sign.
Yeah.
Part of
Really,
it.
that would have been great. My God.
There would have been part
Any
of it.
update on that, Sean?
Yeah, we're just waiting for the electrician to run the line. So,
Can't we put the big sign, the portable sign out front and say, get vaccines or something on it?
Yeah.
Please, yeah,
we can do that.
I think we should do that.
I have to insist here, and I made it a point, Sean, I mean, not to be dramatic here, that I know I was an advocate to open us up to in-person meetings early as possible, but things have changed, and our attitude has to change. And our attitude is get vaccinated, do everything we can to make that consistent and to stop these in-person meetings. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we
So
need
that's a motion?
Yes.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Tattlebaum and seconded by Mr. Mickelson. On the motion, any questions? Okay, Mr. Tattlebaum,
Yes.
Mr. Harron,
No.
Mr. Mickelson,
Yes.
Mr. Gracie,
Yes.
and the chair votes in favor. Okay. So it's 4-1. All right. Next item on the agenda, we'll go back up to A on the new business, renew the constable appointment of Patrick Duddy. Board's pleasure.
Motion to appoint or reappoint.
Okay.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Mickelson, seconded by Mr. Harron. On the motion, any questions? Mr. Tattlebaum,
Yes.
Mr. Harron,
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson,
Yes.
Mr. Gracie,
Yes.
and the chair votes in favor. So Mr. Duddy is reappointed. Next item, we have a request from from Peter Lance and the Lance family for the Fonts Corner Road flag placement. I believe that's Pete right there. As some of you recall, may have recalled, this was done several years ago by a gentleman, I believe was either done, I'm not sure, it was still vague as to how it was done. I kind of remember the gentleman who owned the sandwich shop on the corner.
Mhm.
I remember seeing him there, whether he was placing the flags, but people have also said that it was done by the Lions Club and whatnot. But it doesn't make a difference because we have somebody stepping up willing to do this. And this is Peter Lance from the Lance family. Peter.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. I'll keep this pretty succinct. John and Dave, first of all, thank you for your support of the fire department always. And John, say hello to Janine, and Dave, say hello to your son, Evan. I went to Friends Academy with him many, many years ago. So just really quickly, I'm a fourth generation Marine. We fly a Marine Corps flag and American flag outside of our office every day. We lower it to half staff at appropriate times. And on Pearl Harbor Day, just about a month ago, I'm driving up Fonts Corner Road, and it hit me that all the American flags that I used to see lining Fonts Corner Road, and it was done by the Lions Club, Sean,
Okay.
at least as far as I was able to research. I'm not looking to reinvent the wheel. I'm not looking to do anything, totally crazy or different. But I remember I was a Dartmouth resident since the time I was 8 years old until I went away to the Marine Corps back in 1996. And when I returned back to town after moving around and staying in different towns around 2010, every single time it was Memorial Day, Veterans Day, any patriotic holiday, all of Fonts Corner Road was lined with American flags, and it made me feel really good inside going to my office, which is up at the top of Fonts Corner Road. So again, like a month ago, I'm driving up Fonts Corner Road on Pearl Harbor Day, and I'm seeing there's no American flags, and it hit me. I was like, it's been several years since I've seen the flags and what happened. So I looked into it, and it was the Lions Club that did this. I'm looking to see if it's possible to do at my expense and my company's expense. Not looking to have the town's involvement by any means, and just looking for your approval, at least on a preliminary basis, and get you some more details about the final structure of all that. I also founded the Greater New Bedford Marine Corps League back in 2013, so I know that I can get their assistance in helping with this, but I also have a lot of veteran friends.
I'm sure there are plenty of people that once they hear that this is going on, that they'll be more than happy to help. That's for sure. I don't see this as any kind of an issue. Mr. Mickelson.
I'd like to make a motion to approve. Thank you, Steve, for all your concern. And I'm a veteran also, and I'm a little taken back that we haven't had anything in that meeting. And I think people, when they drive by up and down, they're going to get a nice feeling about seeing those flags in the appropriate time.
Thank you for your service. And yes, it would only be for those maybe 4 or 5 actual holidays, or Pearl Harbor Day, which is an official, holiday, unfortunately. And obviously, if anything major were to happen, hopefully not, but, something in that event. And thank you for your service.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Yours
sir.
also, my friend.
All right, motion was made by Mr. Mickelson. Is there a second?
I'll second that. Second.
All right, Mr. Gracie seconded under the wire. All right, on the motion, any questions? All right, roll call vote. Mr. Tattlebaum,
Yes.
Mr. Harron,
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson,
Yes,
Mr. Gracie,
Yes.
and the chair votes in favor.
thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you all. Thank you for all what you do. Thank you.
Appreciate that. So I just wanted, one of the things, and this really does concern Peter at this time, but I know one of the biggest things in town, as far as a town employee at town departments, and one of the last things that really is any kind of a concern is landscaping throughout the town. But I'll be honest with you, the vegetation along that Fons Corner Road is just absolutely abysmal. It's just a mishmash of bushes, gnarly, whatever, and I think I'm wondering if this is a project to, if we can rip up the existing vegetation, replant it with something a little bit different. Is this something that's possible through CPC funds?
I believe so. And this would fall under goal number 2 of the draft select board goals, which is
Okay,
good.
good. All right, so I want to take, because, yeah. Not only does the vegetation on Route 6 is just absolutely disgusting, at least we should have our little place, make it look a little bit nicer. So that's me.
Well,
All right.
we've had some internal discussions, and we agree, Fons Corner Road is sort of the gateway to the town for a lot of people. We've been talking about improving that median
Okay, great.
for next year. Okay.
Next item on the new business, we have the police department holiday toy drive update. Chief, you are here. So give us the news.
I am, sir. Thank you. So as you know, each year we organize a toy drive at the Target in Dartmouth, during which time we collect toys to distribute to area families in need. As the need for this assistance, I should say, has grown considerably over the past 2 years, so has the popularity of our toy drive. And this year, I'm proud to announce that we were not only able to completely fill 2 school buses with toys, but also fortunate enough to receive considerable monetary donations for these Dartmouth families. This event is a result of volunteers from members of the Dartmouth Police Department, along with other town agencies, and with the generosity from local business owners and all of the people who donated to this worthy cause. Detective Kyle Costa, who works very hard each year to make this event a success, wanted to recognize the generosity of Big Value Outlet and Vice Chairman David Tattlebaum, who, without hesitation, supported this event. Thank you, Mr. Tattlebaum, for your commitment to the residents of Dartmouth. And happy birthday. I'm not sure, but I see behind you. So I don't know if that's for you.
Granddaughter.
Okay.
Good job, Dave.
Oh, I read this Sunday morning and I was totally shocked. It not necessary, appreciated, but it was a privilege to work. And Kyle Costa is one fantastic person and great to work with him. So it's a privilege to help out. Thank you.
Thank you again. And I agree. He's definitely an asset for us as far as organizing this and getting people to, volunteer and come out in different kind of weather. We've had it in rain, snow, whatever, but people come out in droves to donate to this cause.
You can't say no to Kyle Costa. He's too good.
Oh, this is a great event, and it just shows how committed our police department is to our community, and it shows because of that commitment, they get the response that they have. Two buses filled with toys is just, it's incredible, especially the larger buses too. So
And they were stuffed too. I mean, I was out there and you literally could not fit anything else in those buses. They were overfilled.
It's good. Excellent. Well, I tell you, it seems like maybe next year we'll get 3 buses. So that'd be great. So
It's a shame. It's a shame that
Thank
we
you,
have.
Chief.
Seems a
Thank you.
shame that we have to do this, but it's wonderful that people step up and share in their opportunity, their good fortune, and share their good fortune with other people. And I thank you all, to all the people that help donate their time and their toys and gifts. Thank you very much.
Very much so. All right. Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it.
Have a good day.
Excuse me. All right. Next item on the agenda, we have the Apotho Therapeutics Community Outreach Meeting. Mr. McGinnis and Mr. Haddad.
Cody can fill you in.
Good evening. So we just wanted to notify the board and the public that on Thursday, January 20th at 4 p.m., Apotho Therapeutics will be holding their community outreach meeting. This is a requirement of the Cannabis Control Commission before a potential marijuana company moves forward with a host community agreement with the town. So this is for 757 State Road. Apotho Therapeutics is looking to locate a cultivation and manufacturing facility. The meeting will be held via Zoom. We'll be posting all of the meeting information on our website and also on our social media pages. Apotho Therapeutics has posted it in the Standard Times, and they're also advertising on their social media platforms. So they'll just go over, what their potential business would look like in Dartmouth. There's various topics that the Cannabis Control Commission requires them to touch on, such as odor mitigation, any mitigation to public nuisance and different items like that.
All
Could
right.
you repeat the time and the date again, please, Cody?
Yes, it's Thursday, January 20th at 4 p.m. and that'll be held via Zoom, and we'll get all of the Zoom information out on our website and social media.
Mr. Herron?
After the outreach meeting, what will the potential opening date be after that?
Well, we need to negotiate a host community agreement with Apotho, and that has not happened yet. We're in negotiations currently. Once we finalize that, we'll bring it before the board, and they can present their plan in the host community agreement, similar to what we did with Solar Therapeutics. It's really in their hands right now. We're waiting to hear back from them.
Do you have a timeline you think it could be accomplished by?
I mean, you want to take a stab, Cody? I mean, I don't. It's hard to say. I mean, there's a number of factors. There's licensing. There's a number of items that the Apotho needs to review and fulfill. So it's a lot of work, a lot of legwork. We're really helping them, trying to spearhead them in the process. But a lot is in their hands. And when there's something that we're responsible for, we try to turn it around as quick as possible.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Next item is item F, Department of Public Works, water quality notice. And I believe Steve Sullivan and Tim Barber are here.
Just by way of background, we have questions in the past about the previous meetings and previous. No, I think that you, Steve. We're getting some feedback.
Sometimes feedback is good, sometimes it's not.
You are too, Sean. I think it might be Steve's phone.
No, I think
it's coming from Steve.
Yeah.
It's coming from Steve.
Okay. It just, we talked about these notices in the past, and it's been helpful to have Tim Barber, our interim Public Works Director, come in to just talk about the notices so the board can be up to date.
So Tim, explain the notice, please.
Okay, the notice is another notice required by DEP due to our last sample that was taken in November. The sample came in pretty low. We've been working on flushing and cleaning out the the lines up north, and it came, the MCL, the limits are set at 60 parts per billion, and the sample came back at 31 parts per billion. But our reporting to the state is done over 4 quarters, and every quarter we sample and average the 4 quarters, the last 4 quarters. So since we had a high sample result in May, and it did come down a little bit in our August sample, the average, the 4-quarter average was still above 60 at 64 parts per billion. So because of that, we have to report and we have to notify the public that we are still out of compliance.
Okay. So this notice is going out to everybody, and
that is everybody that's tied into water.
Right. And of course, the as we had discussed the last time, there would be a narrative that goes out with it explaining the reason why. Because I'll be honest with you, the idea of having something that was done in August, where it was slightly above 60, and then now the November sample is down to 31. That just, it's working, but because of the last 4, because of that test and the other 3, the combined divided by 4, you get something over the value, over the limit, and needs to be reported. So basically, the narrative should be that this is a yearly summary. This is what's happened. These were the numbers from this date, this date, this date, and this date. But as you can see, there's a decline in the overall number, and we expect to see this number continue to be well below the limits. And I think something like that would alleviate fear, because the first thing people see when they see this letter is they may not read the entire letter, but they'll see that there's a problem, that the water's no good, or there's something going on. And I think that's it's important to have that narrative in there, because to be honest with you, even I have a hard time reading the language that's in the letter, even though it is a form letter. And that's the problem sometimes with these agencies. They expect someone like me to understand what the hell they're talking about. So
absolutely. So we worked along with Cody and Sean McGinnis, and they helped put out a letter that was a lot more legible than the technical letter, and I believe it went out with the mailing.
Okay.
On the backside.
All right. Good.
So it's at the top of it says, what is halicetic acid? I don't know if you can see that.
Yep.
Sorry. It's pretty legible.
Right. I see that. Mr. Gracie?
Yeah, I'd just like to ask Tim, what needs to happen to fix this problem so it goes away forever?
Right. So obviously flushing isn't a complete solution. It's what we can do now to move water. But we are entering into a contract with our consultant to evaluate the whole system, and we've started evaluating the system, and what we have to do to remove the organic compounds that is reacting with the chloramines. The chloramines were brought on to remove trihalomethanes and halicetic acids. And prior to the chloramines coming online, we had a high limit with, and we were out of compliance a couple of times with trihalomethanes. Since then, the numbers have gone down dramatically, and we've been in compliance all 4 quarters. Unfortunately, the halicetic acids are reacting the opposite way. So we're working with our consultants to remove the organic compounds from the treatment from our wells, and so they're not reacting with the chloramine treatment. So we will be entering into a phase 1 of our contract, hopefully at our next board meeting, and because that's what we have in the budget. And then after that, we are budgeting for the next phase town meeting.
What do you expect is the timeline for this to go away?
Completely, it's a big one. It's going to be expensive. We're talking about installing clear wells at all of our treatment facilities, and as well as some CT contact pipe and designing filters to remove all these compounds.
And how long will that take?
It'll probably take full construction. I'm sure it'll take a couple of years, because once we get the evaluation, we'll have to bid it, and budget it, and then we'll have to go into construction for all of our treatment facilities.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Tattelbaum, Mr. Mickelson, and Mr. Harron.
I understand how complex this is, how difficult it is to solve, and there are so many issues that come up, and many by surprise. I also, the letter that was attached that went out was plain, it was well done. But there isn't anything that we should communicate to our citizens, like the article that came out, the front page of the Dartmouth Week. I think it was alarming to read. I think that what was said there was not monitored the way it should have been and presented through the select board's office and maybe even approval. I think that we need this, if it's going to go on for 2 years, we need to communicate to the public with straightforward, understandable language and do it at a timetable that's meaningful to our residents. This is people's water, this is people's livelihood, this is their health. And I think we talked about having more care, and I think we need some kind of assurance that these kind of communications won't happen again. And I'm sorry to be so negative about it, and I know how hard the job is, but it's just not right for our citizens to have to hear this kind of stuff. It's not more understandable, honest, and timely.
All right, Mr. Mickelson.
Yeah, so Tim, this problem goes back well before you became interim DPW director. Goes back to David's time, and and the thing that bothers me the most is we put this system in knowingly. This is one of the largest systems we have, and with the least amount of usage. Knowingly, we did this. We moved forward to spend a lot of money, and it just seems to me that David was a crackerjack. I was one of his staunchest supporters and still am. But it bothers me personally as a resident, not as a select board member, that we took on this enormous project, knowingly that we could have these issues because there's no usage, that the water get blocked up. And I might not using the right engineering terms, but I think everybody that's listening, all 10 million, will understand what I'm saying. And now we're talking about 2 to 3 to 4 more years and spending even more money. So I just don't understand why we're in this position today when we had many opportunities years ago to make corrections at a much less cost. And I know you can flush and all that, but that's a Band-Aid. Am I correct?
You are.
Yes. Right. And Tim, again, I'm not, you inherited this. I understand that. I think also what Mr. Tattelbaum mentioned about announcements to the public through media. I think everything has to go through your office. You're the one that should be answering all these questions to the media. And maybe with yourself and Mr. McGinnis, write things that are legible and understandable to people like myself. And because it's scary to a lot of people because they don't understand the terminology. And honestly, I got a lot of phone calls because they didn't know what was going on. And but again, not to be repetitious, I don't speak a lot, but it just bothers the living crap out of me, pardon the pun, but that we didn't address these issues earlier on. and when we had an opportunity to. And thank you very much.
Mr. Harris.
Absolutely, Sam. And another thing that we're looking to work on through our modeling and is evaluating. We have a large storage tank up on Old Fall River Road that, because there's not a lot of use, there's not a lot of movement in that tank. So we will be evaluating taking that tank offline and seeing if that improves any of the water. That tank was put online mostly for storage for EMI down on Old Fall River Road, the energy company. But they're not using a lot of water anymore, so that tank, again, that tank's not moving. So that's one of our evaluations that we'll be doing early on. And if we can do that and work with that tank to see if we can get a better flow in the main without using that storage, it may help out as well.
Yeah, I mean, to store water for no one makes no sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Herron?
I was just wondering if there's going to be any American Rescue Plan funds available for us to seek out to help us with this problem.
Yes, that's a future meeting. We'll be presenting to the select board options for our funding that's up.
Okay.
We're also looking at some state funding through the revolving fund.
Great.
Well, I know that when the Old Fall River Road connector project was done, and along with the Reed Road water line, it was anticipating of the industrial area building up the way it anticipated. Unfortunately, the anticipation and actual, two different things. So the criticism of overdoing should be also basically, it would be the same if we didn't do it and this area blew up and we didn't have the capacity to deal with it. So it's a two-way street. It's a damned if you do, damned if you don't type of thing. But the idea of the Old Fall River Road connector was to keep the water moving and not having the dead ends. It's the dead ends that seems to be where we have the problem, and also the water not moving as anticipated or planned for, because the reality is it didn't happen. So, but the effort is to one of the major efforts to take care of this was to go from chlorine to chloramine, and that's, you can see the actual results of that is, take a look at the last testing, and it's 30 points below where it's half of where, of the limit. And I think that's a significant amount of work that has been done. And I think that's, unfortunately, that's being lost in this discussion.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it'd be curious. It's not so much the 31 is what is it going to be the next time? That's the number I want to see. Okay. And
same here.
And I want to see what that number is going to be, because that'll tell us where we're going with this. But if we need to do something in the system to get rid of the organics that causes this problem, then it's no ifs, ands, or buts about it that it should be done. I mean, and you're talking to somebody whose great uncle was the superintendent of the waterworks of New Bedford and Quiticus. So, and again, a little bit of family history, and the water thing. So, so we appreciate that, regardless of Mr. Mickelson's size a lot. So, all right. So thank you, Tim. Thank you,
Chairman.
Mr.
Absolutely.
Tattelbaum.
I would like to have some kind of assurance. I'd like to ask this board to ask for the assurance. The communication on this issue goes through the select board office. When it comes to the press, when it comes to these letters, I think that I don't want to read those kind of articles anymore. And frankly, the fact that it was good news could have been really well documented and well said, so there was no doubt that, yes, this is good news. But it sure didn't sound that way. And I think that we've had this discussion before, and I think that we have people who are ready and able to do this. We're not deceiving anybody. We want good, solid information. It's not confusing on this issue, period. It's going to be 2, 3, 4 years, how long it's going to be.
Well, once they have the information as to what needs to be done in the time frame, we will get that information. We will also have the build out information. And I think, and I believe that the communication process going through the department head is not lost upon this discussion.
Absolutely not.
That's not what I asked for. I asked for through the select board's office.
I disagree with you. Okay. And this is why. I don't want anybody saying that the select board office is hamstringing these departments with the discussion and then everything has to be gone through the select board office. I don't want to say that.
I didn't say that.
Well, that's basically what you're
I
saying.
said communication with the public. How we inform the public should not be done in a way that's careless, and it has been. Just the communication. They're on their own, they're the experts. How we communicate to our citizens and to the press is what I'm talking about.
The letter has to come from the DPW. So if the press wants to talk to the DPW about what's going on, it should be Tim Barber is the one should be giving that information out.
Well, that's the whole point, Sean.
McGinnis.
That's the whole point, Sean.
I'm asking Tim Barber to use experts in town to make sure we communicate well.
I definitely will. And
Okay.
But we've already said that.
Thank you, Tim. That's all I want to hear.
That's what we've already said, is that the select board and Mr. Haddad will help communicate, especially that translation letter as to what, to break it down so that guys like you and me can understand the technical
Agreed.
stuff. Right.
But I don't want to see another article like that appear ever again. That's what I'm saying.
That's a different thing. That's a different thing. That article. Now, any future articles is going to go through Tim Barber.
Absolutely.
Great.
Okay.
That's what we want.
Thank you,
And
Tim.
we're hoping to keep these levels where they are. We're expecting to, but we have to plan for the worst. So we're planning to evaluate and design the system.
I get it. It's a tough job. I get it. I'm not a scientist, so thank you.
But we'll keep working on what we're doing to keep these levels well below the MCL and keep our water safe to drink.
Thanks, Tim.
Amen.
We'll be sampling again in February. So that's the next sample date. And I apologize for the miscommunication with the press. Unfortunately, I answered a phone call that I didn't know who I was speaking to. And mostly every time I've dealt with this before, I went through Mr. Hickox, and it will continually go through Tim now. I apologize for the embarrassment.
Thank you, Steve.
Not an embarrassment, it's just a miscommunication.
Not an embarrassment.
Taking care of it.
I don't want to embarrass you or select board or anybody in this town. I've been here 37 years, and I want to go with out of this my job when I do retire with my head high. So that's
Amen.
what I want to plan on doing.
Well,
We want to help you.
You have no reason not to help you.
I appreciate all the help you do give us, and I will continue to look forward to removing this problem that we have, and work with everybody to send out a good information to everybody.
Well, you can't leave until the problem's solved anyway, so.
Gonna keep trying.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right. Next item on the agenda is G, the 2022 and 2023 select board goals. Mr. McGinnis?
Yes. So, many of the boards and committees out there are often asked, what the select board's goals are. In the past, as you know, as I presented in some of my presentations, the 4 goals that the select board had established when I had started. I thought this was a good opportunity to revise those goals and update them in order to give some direction to the boards and committees that the select board oversees and is involved with. So I met with many of you individually. I thought that was important to kind of gauge individually what your visions of the town were and what your goals were personally, and I combined those together into a draft of goals with 6 goals that we've set forward. And, under those goals are some action items that were part of those discussions. But first off, I wanted to establish a mission statement. I think this is important. You all are very committed to the town. You have a vision for the community. I think that is shown through these meetings, in your actions. There's a number of projects going on, so there's a lot going on. And it's really articulating that to the public, but also to the staff and to the boards and committees. So it's important to kind of lay it out in a nice form of goals and action items that not only the staff are aware of and they can refer back to as they do their day-to-day duties, but also as the public can see that you all are committed to improving the town. So I started with a mission statement. It's broad, but I think it encompasses everything that in meeting with you that you would want to get across. If you want me to read it, I can read it, but you all have it in your packet. But then under the goals, as I said, there's 6 main goals. I put them, they're kind of in the order of importance that I thought, but you can certainly revise that. The first goal is maintain sound fiscal health and low taxes without overrides, and identify strategies to balance the budget within constraints of Proposition 2.5, new growth and local receipts. You're very committed to keeping the tax rate low, and we work very hard to fulfill that goal. And underneath that is part of that is maintaining strong financial policies. We meet twice annually to review the financial policies and update them. They're not just stale. As you know, last year we updated the financial policy, one of them. And under that is develop a process to for the select board to evaluate how to spend our ARPA funds. Mr. Herron was asking about that earlier. We'll be presenting some options at a future meeting. And we're still waiting to get some clarification from Bristol County on how they're going to disperse the funds and what's going to be available. So once they have a process in place, we'll be letting you know about that. And also evaluating capital and maintenance improvements to optimize service levels, and that also is affected by the ARPA funding. And one of the other action items is reviewing long-term capital expenditures. We do the capital plan every year, but we've had discussions. We're doing the recreation center study, but we also have the Payden Bridge. We also have the schools that are going to need to be replaced up in the future. So we're trying to make plans for that and keep that in mind as we think about the future. Next, under sound fiscal health, is negotiating contracts that balance financial realities with goals for effective, efficient delivery of services. Underneath that is developing a strategy to affordably improve employee benefit programs. We've talked many times about health insurance and the cost of health insurance to not only the town, but the employees, and finding a way to ease that. And promoting economic growth to support wage and benefit increases. So that's important too, because as they increase, we want to make sure we can cover those costs. Goal number 2, expand economic growth, development, and redevelopment efforts to support commercial business. And this is, under key action items for that. This is very important in light of the fact that, we have a large commercial base here. Dartmouth is a hub for a lot of commercial activity. We want to maintain that. So that part of that is to develop and implement strategies that our local rapid recovery plan is recommending. You've seen that. We've had some public meetings on that. That was a grant we received. They've done an excellent job of assessing Route 6 for us and offerings, and they're finalizing that plan. They're going to offer some strategies for us to help improve the corridor. One of the benefits of that, and Mr. Haddad has been here, is the commercial vacancy report that's been generated. We're able to share that. So we're going to look to maintain that, but also working with MassDOT to improve traffic flow along 6. And that includes Fawns Corner Road, intersection Tucker Road, Cross Road, and Mr. Talbot brought up that Reed Road widening was a project in the past that we want to come back and revisit. Under another action item is establish working relationships with the commercial property owners and brokers to assist to fill in vacancies. I mentioned that just previously, the vacant business report. Also working with the South Coast Chamber of Commerce. They receive a regional economic development organization grant from the state every year, which Dartmouth is part of that. So that grant requires them to contribute to Dartmouth's commercial endeavors. So we're working closely with the South Coast Chamber to initiate some of these projects that are part of that grant. We'll also reestablish the partnership with UMass Dartmouth to collaborate on and implement mutual beneficial activities. As you know, UMass has had some turnover, not only the chancellor's office, but also in the high-level management offices, which was part of our town gown group. So we're meeting shortly to reestablish that committee because it was beneficial and it was, a lot was getting accomplished. So we look to seek to improve that. I think you all had mentioned that you'd like to see more collaboration between the university and the town because there's a lot of synergies between the two. And continuing to seek grant funding support to support town growth and development efforts. That's Cody Hadjab's his primary job, but I think you've seen the benefits of that, and you certainly want to continue that. The grant funding has been a huge boon to the town, and we've been able to effectuate a lot of projects and initiatives because of that grant funding, and that's very important. We want to continue that. Goal number 3 is long-range strategic planning. I think you all have a vision for the future of Dartmouth that you want to promote, and part of that is underway, but it's certainly the goals for you all. And the first is to finalize the town's master plan, working with the planning board. Also is working with the charter review committee. The charter is kind of the constitution of our town, so it's important that any changes are well thought out and approved by the select board. So the charter review committee is in process. Also, we have our open space and recreation committee that is underway as well. There's a need for space and recreation space in town. I think you all know that. We have many discussions about that. So this group has come together and they're just kicking off that process. And also to support the waterways committee and implementation of the harbor management plan. Many of you have mentioned, the importance of that plan, the importance of the harbor to the community, and implementing the initiatives within the harbor management plan are important to you all. Also evaluate options for acquiring developable town land for future capital projects, like the schools and the recreation center. We've had this discussion. There's not a lot of town land that's developable. So you all recognize the importance of that. There's been some discussions in the past about acquiring some land for future development. I think it's important that you still have articulated that you want to pursue that to make sure that the town is leveraged for the future for development. Continue to prioritize the Bliss Corner remediation. That's very important to all of you, and work closely with DEP and EPA on those cleanup efforts. Those will be ongoing probably for the next year at least. So we want to continue with that, and also to maintain the Lake Nokichoke Dam in the lake itself. That's the priority of you all that you've made very clear. So that's kind of long-range strategic planning. Number 4 is continue to evaluate current town-wide service levels in order to identify potential operational and organizational efficiencies and technology enhancement opportunities which will streamline town processes, increase online service offerings, and provide exceptional customer service to residents, businesses, and the general public. This was an original goal of mine. It's been expanded, but I think you've seen the benefits. The town has offered a lot of online services. So not only do we have external efficiencies, but you've heard about a lot of internal efficiencies as well. And we had discussion tonight, but the first was you mentioned to conduct a public works operational study on wastewater, solid waste, water quality, water rates, customer service, and operational efficiencies, using comparable community comparison statistics and analysis of best management practices and strategies to provide high quality, cost-effective services. The DPW works very hard to provide services to the community. Unfortunately, often with, say, the water quality notices, it gets a lot of negative press, but they are doing a lot of good things. But we, just like we look at our internal processes from the municipal government side, we want to look at our public works side to make sure we're providing the best services possible at the best price to the taxpayers. So that's one of the key actions. The next is to continue to implement our online service offerings. We've implemented them for a number of departments internally. It's been well received by the public. It's helped us to stay organized internally with the workflow process. So we will be implementing planning, zoning, conservation, recreation, some town clerk offerings in the Department of Public Works. Evaluate current organization staffing roles and responsibilities, and develop a new staffing organizational plan to meet future needs of town government. The times are changing quickly. There's been a lot happening, particularly part of the pandemic, but in the way the town offers services as exhibited by our online services. So, government's changing. You all want to see to make sure that Dartmouth is changing with the government to continue to provide cost-effective services. So we'll be, reviewing each department and their staffing organization and how they offer services, and coming up with plans to provide better services with the staff that we have in place. And also explore opportunities to share services and create efficiencies with the school department, with the goal of reducing operating costs and improving efficiency and quality of service delivery in the following areas: human resources, payroll, accounts payable, and facilities management. Both entities do a lot of similar things. There are some redundant functionalities. It's worth reviewing ways that we can collaborate more to provide better services and reduce costs. So that was something that many of you had mentioned that you wanted to look into. So we'll be doing that. Goal number 5, improve communication and transparency with the public. We just talked about this with the water quality notices, but you wanted to establish a means to improve two-way communication with the community, upgrade the town website to provide easy and efficient access to information, review agenda design and creation process, and move to digital format with the agenda. So engage community in visioning and decision-making via social media, DCTV, and the website, and inform and update the public on positive and impactful projects happening in town. We met about this a few months ago, so you're going to see some of these things are in process. But this is a big part of this is our engagement portal, and I think we've had some success with its implementation. It's been a great means to communicate with the public outside of social media, where we can answer their questions, they can provide feedback, and they can access up-to-date, accurate information. So it's been very successful. So we will be building on that a lot more, and it's been helpful with our water quality notices as well. So, but the communication with the public is very important. I think one thing we've discussed is there's so many avenues for information right now that it gets watered down, and people aren't always sure where to go. We've really directed people to the engagement portal. The people that have accessed it and logged in and created accounts have noticed a difference with the information they're receiving. We're able to push out a lot of information to them, and they're also able to directly ask questions from a variety of department heads. So it's been really, really well received. 6 is support modern governance, enhance intergovernment relations, and foster a culture of excellence. Part of that is review the form of government through the Charter Review Committee, evaluate appointed committees for continued need and support, evaluate ways to increase participation of diverse, high-quality candidates for appointment to board and committee vacancies. One thing we're seeing is a lack of participation. You all notice that. It's when we have vacancies, they can be more difficult to fill. So, you are committed to, providing better government and finding ways to get more people involved. So that has been a goal of most of you. Schedule a summit of boards and committees to articulate and collaborate on implementation of the select board goals. This is a question you all want to make sure that everyone's going in the same direction that you're setting. So you want feedback on that direction, but it's important for the board to get together with all the committees to meet occasionally, so they're aware of these goals. So they're trying to enhance and effectuate the select board's goals. So I think it's important to schedule these regular meetings. And this one you've already done was adopt a code of conduct for elected and appointed officials. You adopted one for the select board, but it's important to adopt one for all the boards and committees. So that is what we had for draft goals. It is a draft. It's welcome for your input, but you were great about providing a lot of information, and you're very committed to the community. And I think that shows in these goals and in your plans for the future. So with that, I'll take questions.
You listened very well. Thank you.
Board members? Any input from the board? Mr. Talvon?
I just want to say that what Sean's given us is an absolute roadmap in detail And it's now up to us to provide the leadership and engagement as a select board to wherever it takes to make some of these things happen. We can't change rules. We can't force the planning board to do anything about do their job, Board of Appeals, but we can show leadership and get people together to make some of these things happen. And I look forward to working with Sean. He's given us the tools we need now to move forward. And I think it's a wonderful document with great care and easy to understand, and some really great things that we can do for the town. Thank you, Sean.
Okay. Anyone else? Would the board like to offer a motion to adopt these as the goals?
So moved.
Yeah.
Okay.
We just got these. I would like to digest them a little bit more.
Okay, thank you, Frank. We will take this up at the next meeting, Frank. Is that
That's
okay?
fine. That'll be fine.
All right, so let's put this on the agenda for the 24th. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Should we funnel any comments to Sean? Or-
If any board members have any, concerns, please address them directly with Mr. McGinnis. You can CC the chair if you wish. You don't have to.
Thank you.
All right. Next item on the agenda, we have the review of the boards and committee meetings, date and times. So I asked this for us to take a look at because there have been some concerns about some boards meeting at times when the public can't go to. Some of them I understand. One of the ones I've always had a concern with is the DPW meeting at 7:30 in the morning. But I understand most of the time the DPW, you're dealing with contractors and that's contract hours. I can understand that. Some boards, I don't know. It's kind of difficult. It's kind of difficult to have boards, the general public, to open up when we could meet to attend. I don't know if there's a whole lot of interest in some of the public coming to some of these committee meetings. I mean, I don't know how many people want to go to an assessors meeting. It's all technical. Generally, they show up to the meetings that are of great concern, which is this one: planning board, school committee, board of health, board of appeals. Generally, with the people that use it. So I just I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly what to do about this. I can't really, I think it just should at least give us an idea of when people meet,
John, I have a suggestion, John. I think, for instance, there's a lot of information here, and I looked at the capital planning, and they meet at 8 o'clock in the morning, but I assume that those meetings are not televised. Is that correct?
Correct.
So maybe we could look at it from angles of, if they look, the people who are on the committees need to agree on a time, and if this is the only time they get everybody together, then that's a priority. But on the other hand, if they can be televised, or I don't know what the status of those kind of things are. If we're able to do it, that could be a way for people to see some of these things where the time just doesn't work for a lot of people. But I don't know if we're capable of doing that or what that entails. I also think maybe could we possibly table this one until the next meeting as well, to maybe make some specific comments?
It's an informational, so we're not looking to do any kind of, just basically it's informational. Take a look at what's, and if there's anything that strikes you as odd or something that could be possibly changed, or the reason why, we can always discuss it. Mr. Herron?
I'd like to see if we could have the meeting minutes for those meetings more readily available, maybe similar to something on like our town website also.
Well, they're supposed to be available.
They are on the website.
Okay.
All right. So sit and chew on this. I
Could we
guess.
bring it up for the next meeting?
We can. We'll put it on for the next one.
It's a great job. Thank you.
All right, next item, we have a resignation from Susan Waring on the Council on Aging. And the reason for most of the time is because of when they meet. So he's somebody who would like to be on the board, but can't meet at the time that the board meets.
They say,
So let's just have a motion to accept her resignation. Maybe she can reapply if things change.
so
I'll
moved.
make that motion.
All right, motion made by Mr. Gracie, seconded by Mr. Harron. Thank you, Mr. Harron. On the motion, any questions? Being none, Mr. Tattelbaum,
Yes.
Mr. Harron,
Yes,
Mr. Mickelson,
Yes.
Mr. Gracie,
Yes,
and the chair votes in favor. Okay, we have license renewals, and all license renewals are subject to police, fire chief, police chief, fire chief, and directional of inspectional services approval, as well as the current tax standing. Common Vics, Dunkin' Donuts at 450 State Road, 127 Fons Corner Road, 255 State Road, 823 State Road, and 550 Russell's Mills Road. Good Friends, Chinese restaurant, Metro Pizza, Starbucks, Sunrise Bakery, Town Donut Shop, the Target Store, Burger King, Subway at 506 and 386 State Road.
Motion to approve.
second.
second.
Motion made by Mr. Mickelson, seconded by Mr. Gracie. On the motion, any questions? Mr. Tattelbaum,
Yes.
Mr. Harron,
Yes,
Mr. Mickelson,
Yes.
Mr. Gracie,
Yes,
and the chair votes in favor. Common Vic licenses that have not been approved, that have not applied yet. Dockside Ice Cream, Java Shack, John George's Ice Cream, Pizonis, which is in the process, Smith Mills Congregational Church, Sweet Kiwi, and the Village Cafe. Have letters gone out to these establishments?
They get notified through the online permitting system.
Okay, because I know the Village Cafe. I'm not sure about Sweet Kiwi, but I know Java Shack and the Village Cafe are in business.
Yes.
So,
So they are notified multiple times, and they are continued to be notified as part of this process.
okay. Right, and we have a Class 2 license. Let's see, let me just turn the page. We have a Class 2 license of M&G Custom Mini Corp. To be approved.
Motion
With
to
pleasure.
approve.
Motion made by Mr. Mickelson, seconded by
second.
second.
Mr. Gracie. On the motion, any questions? I'll vote, Mr. Tattelbaum,
Yes.
oh, you jumped. All right, Mr. Mickelson,
Yes.
Mr. Gracie,
Yes,
Mr. Harron,
Yes,
and the chair votes in favor. All right, we have Class 3 license, Will's Auto Wrecking.
Motion to
pleasure.
approve.
Motion made by Mr. Mickelson,
second.
seconded by Mr. Harron. On the motion, any questions? Mr. Tattelbaum,
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson,
Yes.
Mr. Gracie,
yes,
and Mr. Harron,
Yes,
and the chair votes in favor. Having not applied yet is Elite Auto Sales, and Jaden Auto is in the process.
Mr. Chairman,
And Mr. Tattelbaum.
quick question. Is there any reason for us to establish a date for a penalty? Maybe an extra fine for people who don't apply, or they're waiting, or we just going to keep sending them notices?
I'm not sure whether or not we can do that. And we'd have to check the state law as to whether or not we can do that. If not, I mean, you don't have a license to operate, you shouldn't be operating.
Yeah, I mean, it's already, I mean, our next meeting is the end of the month. They're going a whole month without it being, it's unfair to the other people who follow the rules.
Right,
If they have an exception, they should tell us, but they're not even answering, I take it, Sean.
right. I mean, I can understand a couple of these because they're seasonal. So I don't have a problem with the seasonal ones. But
Yeah, but on the other hand, they have to apply for January 1st or they don't.
right. They still have.
I can say that last year, we had, and if you may recall, we had a number of businesses that were late, particularly the common victualler license that was our first year of online permitting. I think that was helpful. But the board also discussed whether or not you can't implement a late fee. You would have to vote on that. You decided to not vote on it and to wait to see the following year what the adoption rate was. I think it's much improved from last year. I think the online permitting process has helped with that greatly with the notification system that's within that. And for the 10 days into January to have so few that are still outstanding and some are in the process, I think we're in good shape. And there's always going to be, regardless of the penalty, there's always going to be some that are late, but we do notify them quite often.
Thank you.
Well, excuse me.
Wait a minute, before you go, Mr. Gracie?
Yeah, I was going to bring up the point that we had the great discussion about this last year. And I personally don't care whether people apply or not, but what the problem we had last year was people were still open and they hadn't applied yet. And so I think we should set some sort of limit where we give people a warning and shut them down, after a reasonable time.
We can't for the common victual licenses, we can't shut them down. We can only notify them that they're not licensed.
So what's the penalty?
There is none.
So why are we doing this?
Well, if they're not licensed in town and, their insurance requires them to be licensed. So if there's an issue, they may, their insurance might not cover them for any type of insurance related issue.
No wonder people are in no hurry.
Mr. Nicholson?
So exactly my point. So what does the letter say? The letter should say that you could be jeopardizing your position as a business owner in the town, and it would jeopardize other things as example, insurance coverage.
I mean, we could also, it looks like we could institute a penalty, a late fee. How much is the common vic license?
Off the top of my head, I don't know, but I can certainly forward to. I did a brief presentation last year on this, and I can forward that information to the board and to review. It had all that information in there.
Right. I mean, if they pay, the fee plus half of the fee, that's incentive enough as it is.
That's what I was going to think. 50%.
I agree. There should be some sort of penalty or some detriment to them not doing what they're supposed to be doing.
It's not fair to all the business owners that have done the right thing.
Right.
Really, shame on these people.
And it's not just the big business owners. There's a lot of smaller business owners that are doing this.
Exactly.
They're doing it correctly.
Exactly.
So, okay, that's something we can visit at a future meeting.
Well, hopefully all these people catch on, and they by the next meeting they'll all be on board.
Let's see what it looks like next meeting.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. All right. And that concludes new business. Under old business, anything on? Well, we already discussed the COVID aspect of it.
Just COVID. Bliss Corner, Lake Nokichoke, no new updates.
Okay. No minutes. No information. Is
Oh, wait a
there
minute.
any information, Mr. Harron?
Yes, I have some information. I'd like to congratulate Joe Vieira. He was elected to the president of the Massachusetts Policemen's Association.
Yes, and only the third Dartmouth police officer
Correct.
to be the president of the MPA.
Yes.
That's an excellent point. Thank you very much, Mr. Harron, and we can acknowledge that.
It was an excellent appointment.
Yep.
Excellent appointment. No one person that I know that's in that part of government that gives his life like this guy does.
Yep. And we all know that if they need to, if that position needs to have a spoken voice, we know certainly that Mr. Vieira will relish that endeavor.
Exactly.
I'm sure I'm going to get a text on that from him.
I hope so.
Loudly, yeah.
And rightfully so.
Mr. Gracie?
Yeah, it was brought to my attention that the BBA license was expired in December. We haven't done anything about that.
The lease?
At least, yes.
Okay, we can take that up on the next meeting.
Yeah, we are working on that. It's a little complicated.
Okay.
I don't understand. What are we working on?
The RFP for the lease.
All right, yeah, because it's gonna go out for bid and then be bid on. So I guess they're working on the RFP?
We're working on the RFP. What makes it complicated is that, the board wants to do up to 30 years, but also how to use the property. So the board, we need to kind of clarify how the property is going to be used and developed. So it's not something that's straightforward. So, but we are working on it.
Okay, all right, good. Mr. Tattelbaum.
A quick announcement. I got a call last week from Natalie Ventura. She's a resident in Dartmouth, and she's 91 years old. And right around Christmas, her daughter had a major health issue in the house, and they called 911. And STAT showed up, the police showed up, the fire showed up, and she called to ask me to acknowledge these groups because, in her view, they saved her daughter's life. She could not have been happier with the service from STAT, from police and fire. And I said the best thing I thought I could do was to acknowledge it right here at our meeting. So that's what I'm doing. She's a wonderful person. She was so heartfelt and so grateful for what the town had done. The daughter still is facing the health issues, but she could not have been more pleased with the care that she got. And I'm glad to be able to convey that message to all of you and to our other townspeople listening. Natalie Ventura.
That's good to hear.
Yep, it's very good to hear. Okay, anybody have anything else to bring up? All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chairman, you need to vote to sign the warrant.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, right off the top. Next time, just put it on the top of the thing. Well, you probably do, and I probably totally.
It is.
Okay, it's been one of those days. It's been one of those weeks. It's been one of those months.
Yeah.
All right, I need a motion to have, to sign the warrant and to have Mr. McGinnis stamp the warrant on our behalf.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Mickelson, seconded by Mr. Tattelbaum. On the motion, any questions? Being none. Mr. Tattelbaum,
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson,
Yes.
Mr. Gracie,
Yes.
Mr. Harron,
Yes.
and the chair votes in favor. All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to.
Motion to adjourn made by Mr. Mickelson, seconded by
Second.
Mr. Harron. On the motion, Mr. Tattelbaum,
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson,
Yes.
Mr. Gracie,
Yes.
Mr. Harron,
Yes.
and the chair votes in favor. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate.
Well
the
done,
work.
Sean.
Appreciate the work, Mr.